LSU. I said, they ain't ready for the LSU. No, they ain't ready for the LSU, huh? They ain't ready for the LSU. No, they ain't ready for the LSU. We the best in the league if you looking for talent. LSU going hard, but we beat Alabama, then we going out to Florida. Drown the Gators, everybody getting bucked when we step in the stadium. This the LSU anthem, you know it's a hit. You don't know another rapper two-step like this. See me screaming out the window, yelling purple and gold. I'm an LSU fan, girl, you know how we roll now. Back and back it on up. Hey, 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 way down in the back.
T.A. We are live. We're live. Tigers Avenue Monday night edition. What's up, fellas? Welcome in. Tyler Townsend already in here. RP in here. What's up, fellas? It's a good night here in the Tigers Avenue. Well, let's see here. Try and get this switched over real quick. Zach, obviously, LSU Tigers are coming off a W that they pulled off in Columbia, Missouri, and yes, I would say they pulled it off.
All right,
Yeah.
I think I got my mics. Is that better, Zach? Probably
Way
sound better.
better.
Good,
Way better.
good. Sorry, guys, my microphone wasn't registering for some reason. All right, so a lot better sounding. LSU Tigers coming off a W in Columbia, Zach. Obviously, we are going to recap that clearly. JD5 for Heisman, question mark? Or should we even put a question mark on that? And then we got a little something extra for you as well. Man, there's a lot going on right now. It's a great time for sports. You got NFL going on. Obviously, you have the LSU Tigers playing football. It's October baseball time. So I thought I was going to sneeze for a second. So there's lots of sports going on. And lots of good sports to watch. Obviously, I'm going to be watching the Dodgers game after this is over because for the weekend. So I really don't have to worry about Monday Night Football because I already caught that dub. You know how it is. So I mean, Zach, it's a great time for sports right now, and a great time for the LSU Tigers. Obviously, the win on Saturday was huge for several different reasons. Zach, what are your kind of initial thoughts coming off of Saturday, and we'll kind of transition off of that, into our recap of everything that transpired in Columbia. What are your thoughts here?
Well, obviously, after a very disappointing loss to Ole Miss, and obviously major concerns that developed from that game with the secondary, you looked at this matchup between LSU and Missouri, and you saw a really good quarterback and a wide receiver that was leading the conference. So it kind of made the hairs on the back of my neck raise a little bit because, I'm like, oh gosh, I'm going to see the same thing happen again. Like, are they going to torch us? And ultimately, they did for a large part of the game. First three drives for Missouri, boom, 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 touchdown, like it was a breeze. But I think probably the biggest thing that we'll talk about tonight is the adjustments that were made defensively. Nothing to, write home about, but there was adjustments made. And you saw some improvement, especially in the second half. That was at least, positive and at least a little bit brighter to look forward to the future
absolutely.
of LSU defense with this season. So we'll see, obviously, with a big matchup against Auburn coming up. You're back at home. We'll see how the defense continues to progress. Hopefully they do. But, I mean, it was really nerve-wracking, Reagan. I mean, I think me and you mentioned that it would be, pretty much a very similar game to like it was against
no doubt.
Ole Miss. And, I predicted 41-38. And, if it isn't for a pick six at the very end of the ball game, if Major Burns goes down like Brian Kelly had wanted him to, then I would have been almost right on it right there.
Right.
So,
yeah, you would have. Yeah.
we knew it was going to be a high scoring. We knew that Missouri was going to get theirs.
Yep.
Luther Burden, I told you he would easily have 100 yards. He had 100 yards receiving in the first half, easy. But you saw what he did in the second half. Not as good of a second half, right? Because LSU adjusted. They changed their coverages, and, they were able to limit him. And also Brady Cook helped you out a lot in the second half. So overall, defensively, there are some spots there that you're encouraged about, right? You can't,
for sure.
As I said, there's nothing to write home about. Like it's bad. It's bad. And you just have to accept that. Like LSU fans just have to accept that it's
not going to
get defense, especially the secondary. They're just bad. Okay. And we mentioned last show that there was going to have to be major changes made in season, and that if there wasn't major changes made in season, that Brian Kelly was going to have to do some firing at the end of the season.
Sure.
I'm not saying that needs to be the result right now, because I think you still can turn around. You're only halfway through the season. You still have a whole nother half of the season to go. They did make corrections in this game. That was positive to see outside, unlike they did against Ole Miss. And so, again, something positive. Offensively, I mean, there's not really much more you can say. Malik Neighbors continues to dominate. Brian Thomas continues to score touchdowns. He leads the country. Brian Thomas leads the country in receiving touchdowns. And you have a Heisman caliber quarterback in Jayden Daniels, which we'll discuss more in the second segment. It amazes me how Jayden Daniels continues to absolutely put this team on his back and lead this team to victory. Yes, you had a loss against Florida State on the opening weekend, and it was, obviously extremely difficult for LSU fans to open up the season. And yes, you lost a barn burner to Ole Miss on the road. We mentioned last week, this team can still accomplish a lot. Why? Because you have Jayden Daniels at quarterback. Why? Because you have Malik Neighbors and you have Brian Thomas at receiver. Why? Because you have a really good tight end in Mason Taylor. Why? Because Logan Diggs has decided, hey, no more of this running back by committee thing. I'm him. You can bring in fresh legs when you need to, but I'm the guy you're going to give the ball 20 plus times a game.
Absolutely.
And they did that. I mean, we didn't see a whole lot of rotation this game with the running back room, Reagan. We saw it was Logan Diggs all the way. And when they needed fresh legs, they brought in Josh Williams. You didn't see John Emery. You didn't see Caleb Jackson. You didn't see Noah Kane. You didn't see Trey Bradford. You saw nobody except for Josh Williams and Logan Diggs. And Logan Diggs continues to be extremely impressive
really
running
impressive.
the football.
Yeah.
I mean, he is by far your best option at running back. Against SEC opponents, he is averaging over 100 yards a game. And so you continue to feed him. I loved that LSU, they kind of changed their strategy a little bit. They wanted to run the football, and Missouri has been extremely good at defending the run in the SEC. And that didn't matter. You rushed for over 200 yards on the day. Obviously, Jayden was a large bulk of that, but Logan Diggs also held his own with rushing for over 100, I think it was 130-something yards. So overall, the offense continued to just look phenomenal. I mean, I have no negative thing to say about the offense. Maybe, at the end of the game when you're trying to, end the game there, get a first down and not give Missouri the ball, maybe the play calling could have been a little bit better instead of just handing the ball off between the tackles. Maybe you could have come up with a little bit better play calling there to try and seal the deal. You didn't. It was fine. It ultimately ended up not matter. It didn't matter. And so ultimately, I don't think there's anything else we can say about the offense other than it just continues to do its thing. It'll be interesting, though, to see down the line, this entire first half of the season, they've been absolutely phenomenal. It'll be interesting to see this second half of the season if defenses adjust and are able to try and slow down this offense in some form or in some fashion. You saw, and we'll get into this more on Friday, obviously previewing LSU and Auburn, but you saw today Hugh Freeze they were asking him about Jayden Daniels, and he was like, they were like, hey, how do you stop this offense? How do you stop Jayden Daniels? And he's like, you don't stop them. Like you can't. He said, you just have to hope and pray that you hold them to field goals, right? Like LSU's going to move the balls from the 20 to 20. I mean, that's just going to happen. But it'll be interesting to see if defense are able to step up in the red zone against this team. And so overall, I mean, back and forth game. It was very nerve wracking. Obviously, to start the game, you take the ball. I didn't really like that. I'm not super opposed to it. Like, I'm not opposed to getting the ball and going down and scoring and trying to get ahead of the game because your defense is so bad. But you won the toss, and I have said this
never
season,
do that again.
If you win the toss, you need to defer. LSU put themselves in an extremely difficult situation. Ultimately, it didn't bite them in the butt, but they put themselves in an extremely difficult situation by taking the football because Missouri not only got the ball to start the second half, they had the ball to end the first half. And you were already down, and you were just hoping and praying, like, man, we've got to get a stop. We've got to hold a field goal or something. Because if they were able to punch it in there at the end of the first half, and then they were also able to score there to open the second half, like the game was over. Like you'd have to pray for a miracle at that point.
Yep.
And so, that was a very iffy decision for me by Brian Kelly. I think even though you lost the game at Ole Miss, that decision was the better decision to defer because you won the toss in that game as well.
Always.
I'll be interested to see how the offense changes in this game against Auburn. But to slow the pace down and run the football, and Auburn had Missouri had 20 less plays than Ole Miss did last week. So you slowed the game down to try and to be able to allow your defense to make stops, but also to try and build some sort of lead. It didn't really work that great this game. Maybe it works better in another game. We'll find out. But overall, Reagan, you went on the road against an undefeated team. I know people are like, oh, it's Missouri. Look, they were undefeated. They had a really good offense with the combo of
one of the best offenses in the SEC. I mean,
yes, with a combo of Cook and Burden. They had a defense that was extremely good at stopping the run. Their biggest flaw, obviously, was their secondary as well. And but still, there was guys on the secondary that, per Pro Football Focus, were pretty good. That was it wasn't. I wouldn't even call it a weakness. It was just like the area that they weren't as good at, right? So you faced a really good team. They're undefeated for a reason. You were on the road in a hostile environment. That stadium was packed out. You went on the road in the SEC. You did what you had to do. It wasn't pretty. It was ugly at times, but you got to win. You can put in the W column in the SEC conference, and you move forward. You're 1-0 after this week. So LSU did what they had to do. I think you're going to have to find different ways to win the ball game. What your offense can do, but defensively, you're going to have to find different ways to win the ball game. And if it means the offense does something a little different to help your defense out, it was made very evident this week that Brian Kelly will do that, that he'll alter the offense a little bit to be able to help his defense out some. And so I like that, although it was really bad to start the game with Missouri going and scoring 3 straight touchdowns. I like that there was adjustments made in game and that were different from last week that we saw. Because obviously last week was atrocious. So outside of the offense. So overall, Reagan, it's a dub and you're moving forward.
Well, here's another thing, Zach. I think the main reason we ran the ball is because that's what Missouri gave you too. I mean, if you go back and watch the film, and Brian Kelly talked about this today in his press conference, there's going to be teams that try and do this. Credit to Hugh Freeze on saying, I don't know if you really can stop them because, I mean, he's right. Like Missouri dropped they had 2 safeties back like for the majority of the game. And so LSU was just doing what Missouri was giving them. So okay, if you're going to drop two safeties way back, like like all game, then we're going to run the ball, and we ran the ball. I mean, Logan Diggs and Jayden Daniels both ran for 130 plus, and they were just doing what the defense was giving them. They were trying to cut out the big major play to Brian Thomas, to Malik Neighbors. They wanted to cut that out, but I mean, number one, it opened up the run game. Number two, it opened up underneath routes, and of course, Malik and BTJ and Kyron are really good at making the first guy miss. So they can turn a 5-yard route into a 15-yard play pretty easily because they're just those kind of players. So this offense is really, really scary for any opponent they're going to play. I mean, our offense is going to have us in every single game. The bad thing is the defense can take us out of any game. But that's just the reality of who we are right now. But your offense will always have you in this game, in any game, because if you try and take the deep threat away with Malik and BT, like Missouri tried to do this weekend, we'll run the ball. And Logan Diggs is going to run the ball. Jayden Daniels will run the ball. You're just not going to contain them. And we'll dump it underneath to Malik and BT and Kyron and let them make plays in open space. Or Mason Taylor, right. And then, okay, if you want to bring your safety down and, you want to stack the box and try and contain Logan Diggs, well, we're probably going to burn you all night long with Malik and BTJ. Like it's like choose your poison. It really is. So, I mean, even when they were sending, teams will try and pressure Jayden and get him rattled. And Jayden has now matured enough from last year that he will stay in the pocket, take the hit, and make the throw. And we saw that against Mississippi State on the fourth down play when they sent the safety on a delayed blitz. The safety came down, so it left Malik in a one-on-one matchup, slot fade to the end zone on a fourth down play. Jayden got absolutely wrecked on that play, but he made the throw and we scored a touchdown. So it is a plethora of riches that you have on offense. And I mean, there's you have the two best receivers in the country. You have the best duo. They're not number one and number two in the country. They are the best tandem that are playing together in all of college sports or all of college football. And it's not even really debatable. It just isn't. I mean, you look at top 10 list, and the only team on there with two players is LSU, or top 25 list, and all these things, and statistical leaders. Like it's always it's Malik and BT. I mean, and like Luther Burden's up there, and Rome from Washington's up there, and of course Marvin Harrison from Ohio State is there, and Lagniappe from South Carolina. But Malik and BTJ are all on those lists, and those other guys don't have a teammate. So LSU does have the two best receiver tandem in the nation, plus you have a quarterback who's playing out of his mind. Zach, like, if you look at the stats of Jayden Daniels, and they were very impressive, like they were very impressive this Saturday. But you look at it and you may say, okay, well, he didn't throw for 300 yards this game. Well, I mean, obviously he ran for 130, so what does it matter? But, you may say, okay, well, he didn't throw for 300 yards. It wasn't that great of a game. But to me, this was more of a gutsy Heisman performance than any other game all year. Because the dude took a cheap shot in the end zone, busted up ribs, probably got bruised ribs, guts it out, and comes in and puts the team on his back. After he takes that shot, he comes back in. The whole series played out with Nussmeier. Didn't go well. Missouri got the ball back. We got the ball back, and he comes back in the very next series and comes in and scores a touchdown with his legs. Like, Jayden is just, I mean, the dude is a bad dude. Like, he is tough as nails, and has an elite willingness to win. I mean, just an absolute desire to win at all costs. And if it means his body's on the line for it, he's going to lay his body on the line for the game. And anybody who's got crap to say about Jayden, I mean, you're just blatantly ignorant at this point. And thankfully, I think the Jayden Daniels slander has stopped because of what he has done. But man, if Jayden hasn't done enough for you yet, I hope I hope that Saturday was enough for you, because that dude won you the game again. He's just that guy, man. And we'll get to more of that here in a second, but he absolutely deserves to be in the Heisman conversation. But I want to comment a little bit on the defense. You said there was adjustments that were made, and you kind of commented on that. But I want to say this: the very fact that we made certain plays, scheme aside, clearly scheme was involved. I fully believe and trust that.
Yeah.
But scheme aside, the fact that they made some major game-changing plays felt like it instilled confidence back into the team. And it became complimentary. And Brian Kelly talked about that today in his press conference, that the defense and the offense began to be complementary to each other. And it started with Harold Perkins' interception, which, by the way, was phenomenal coverage and schematically was just brilliant. I mean, it looked like he was lined up and he was going to come off the edge and he was going to blitz. Instead, they had Luther Burden lined up in the slot, and instead of sending him on the blitz, he kind of faded back into the middle of the field and kind of hit himself in coverage to then pick the ball off when they thought Luther Burden was open. And so he just kind of he didn't it wasn't like he was running stride for stride with him or even, right up on him, but he just kind of trailed him and stayed behind him a little bit and waited for the route to develop. And once the route developed and he made the throw, Harold Perkins was right there to make the play. It was, Brady Cook wasn't expecting him to drop back like that, and wasn't expecting. I don't think he really was expecting him to be there. And so, tip of the cap there to Matt House and them dialing that up, because that was a called play for him to line up and stunt a blitz and then drop back and kind of trail in coverage.
And in that moment, Reagan, if you remember, they were down 22-7.
Yes.
And you had to get a stop.
You did.
Otherwise, you felt like the game was over. That was probably, the moment in the game where a lot of LSU fans felt like, okay, this we might lose this game. We might get blown out this game.
Yeah, and you get the interception, and then the offense goes and scores a touchdown. Huge change of events there. Massive. So
at that point, they kicked a field goal, because then they made it 22-10 at that point.
So no, I think that's when we went up 22-17. I think it was 10-22 at that point when we intercepted, and then it was when we threw.
Maybe
that after the interception by Harold Perkins, we threw the pass to Mason Taylor and made it 22-17. If I remember correctly.
You may be.
Because we kicked a field goal on the possession before that, and then we intercepted it. Mm-hmm. And so we gained a possession on them there, and it was 17-22. But my point is, it felt like the confidence, I would not say that they were majorly, instantly, uberly confident, but it felt like the defense was okay, we can make some plays happen. And following that Harold Perkins interception, the defense kind of came to life. Because at that point, it was 22. They had 22 points on the board. Missouri did. I know that for a fact, that they had 22 points on the board. And from that point forward, from that interception forward, they scored 17 points in the game.
Yeah.
And that was it. They only kicked the field goal to finish that half out. And they scored 1 touchdown in the third quarter and 1 touchdown in the fourth quarter, and that was it. And you had Mason Smith finally seemed to have a pulse. He got a sack and a pass breakup on the day, which, by the way, Braden Swinson needs to be playing more often. Braden Swinson in a huge series late in the fourth quarter, third down play. We're all sitting here, chewing on our nails. And, oh gosh, it's third down. It's late in the game. What in the world are we going to do? And Braden Swinson comes up with a huge strip sack. Unfortunately, we didn't recover it. We didn't recover, and but it made it 4th and 35. So all you had to do was just keep them in front of you. And so it was a massive play. And then, of course, Major Burns with the pick 6 to seal the deal. It felt like that sparked the defense a little bit. And maybe it was exactly what they needed to give them some confidence moving forward.
Well, we mentioned in the show to preview, Reagan, one of the things we mentioned in our TA Tools for Triumph is get a handful of stops.
Yeah.
And if you can, create turnovers. And
Right.
LSU did. They created 3 turnovers. 2 of them you got, and 1 of them you didn't. Of course, Missouri also had the fumble. That was on them, not on LSU forcing it. But
right.
You had opportunities to get turnovers, and you capitalized twice on those opportunities, which obviously was a major difference in the game.
Yes, absolutely. I was looking through. That was the point where, whenever he intercepted it, it was 22-10. I was looking through the play-by-play.
So we had already kicked the field goal.
We kicked the field goal, and they got the ball back because we had kicked the field goal. It was 22-10, and at that point, it really felt like crap. We had to keep pace. And I remember it because I told McKenna, which McKenna doesn't give 2 cares about what I was talking about, has no idea what I'm saying whatsoever about the football game. But I was like, crap, we just kicked a field goal and we had to keep pace because they're torching us right now. I said we absolutely had to score a touchdown to keep pace, and we just had to kick a stinking field goal. And now we got to, and I said, and now we got to put the defense back out on the field. And I was like, we need to stop more now than ever. And when we kicked the field goal, I was just like, I'm not freaking watching the defense. So I turned it off. I was like, I just can't watch the defense. Gosh. And then I looked back at my thing. I looked back at my phone. And it was 3rd and 5, and they were still in their own territory. And I was like, okay, it's 3rd and 5. I was like, please just get a stop. I'm not watching it. I was like, I'm not watching this defense, but I just want them to see them get stopped. And then all of a sudden it said 1st and 10 LSU. And I was like, wait, hold up. What happened? And then I went and pulled it up, and we had Harold Perkins had intercepted it. So
you have little faith. It's okay. I don't blame you.
I was about to say, I don't think it's me of little faith. I think it's the truth of the matter.
I don't blame you at all.
But still, it felt like the defense turned at that point. It really did. And, that's what really stinks for the offense right now is we kind of have some unrealistic expectations. Yeah, they're really, really stinking good, but it's almost like a disaster when we have to kick a field goal. Right, that was almost disastrous that we kicked a field goal at that point.
Yeah.
But that we can't put, in the moment you're like, as a fan, you're like, oh my gosh, we cannot kick a field goal here. We cannot kick a field goal, and you're kind of disappointed. But once you're removed from it, you're like, okay, the expectations are unrealistic there to expect this team to score every single drive because the defense has been this bad. But thankfully, the defense came up with the turnovers. They came up with stops, man. I mean, they literally, Zach, let's think of it this way. If LSU's defense can play how they played in the second half or just following Harold Perkins' interception, at that pace, we're talking a touchdown a quarter for our opponent. If we allow our opponent to score 28 points a game, I'm good. Because I think our offense can score over 28 on literally anybody. Yeah. So, I mean, that's an improvement from where it's been, right? 28 points a game is an improvement for our defense. Obviously, I think Pete Jenkins had an immediate impact. It was very evident that our technique was a lot better. Where we lined up was a lot better. I see Ryan. He's mentioned it here. We went 4 down, and it was like we got some more pressure. So I was pleased with some of the changes. But as we said in the show, previewing the game, like you're not going to see this miraculous 1 week change and the problems are going to disappear. Clearly, the issues were still prevalent. They were still there, but they made adjustments and played better. And maybe if you can do that earlier in the game, it doesn't get out of hand and you don't have to scramble to play and catch up or play keep up. So there's some positivity to look forward to, but you know we still got to take this a game at a time. I will say this though, Zach, kind of looking ahead a little bit, like Ole Miss with Jackson Dart and Quinshad Judkins and Jordan Watkins and Dwayne and Dayton Wade, and Brady Cook with Theo Weiss and Luther Burden and Cody Schrader, Jordan Travis with Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson. Like those were the best quarterbacks and best receivers you're going to face all year. I'm not saying it's going to change. Okay, so don't misunderstand me, but the talent level has been really good the past, at the very front end of this season. Like we're halfway through the season now. We're halfway through the regular season now, and you face your best quarterbacks probably that you're going to see in Jackson Dart, in Jordan Travis, and in I'm drawing a blank, Brady Cook and Luther Burden. Peyton Thorne and Auburn's receiving core ain't anything like that.
I don't even know a wide receiver for Auburn's receiving core.
I don't either. I'm sure they have.
I can name you receivers on other SEC teams, but I can't name you receivers from Auburn's receiving core.
I couldn't either. But that doesn't mean they don't have a good one. That doesn't mean they have a good one. They don't have a good one. But the fact that we don't even know a name or anything, I mean, it's evident that Auburn's first year under Hugh Freeze, he's had to put the roster together, and like it is what it is. It's not going to be as impressive as what we've seen the last 2 weeks. So maybe your defense, you don't have to rely on that defense really improving as much. Now you want them to continue to improve, but you see my point though. Like maybe you don't get torched because it's not Luther Burden, right? So maybe it gets a little bit easier and you can improve more because the opponent isn't as daunting, if that makes any sense. So those are kind of my thoughts on the game, man. You won the game. I do not care how you win the game. Just win the game. Just win the game. And it was a huge win, like you were saying, Zach. I mean, they were undefeated. It was a ranked matchup. I mean, you have to win that game to keep yourself within contention of the SEC West. All of these things. It was on the road, and if you can get past the hump of Missouri, you're looking toward literally the rest of your games being at home, save one. So it was crucial for several reasons there to come out. However you do it, just come out with a W, and you did it. So I was very pleased. I was very pleased. All right, Zach, I think we got some comments we need to get to. Should we take a break?
Quite a few in here.
Or should we go ahead and get these?
Let's take a quick break, and then we'll get to some comments. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll get to some comments, and then when we come back, we'll begin to discuss why me and Reagan believe that Jayden Daniels should be leading the Heisman hype, and also we'll discuss some LSU baseball and some LSU basketball, some things going on. Some few tidbits about the LSU baseball team, the LSU basketball team. So we'll be back right after this.
5-Star Hero, your intro and outro music for the Tigers Avenue show. They ain't ready for that LSU. Go check out all his other music on all the major platforms. Don't forget to follow him on Instagram at Saints Anthem and at Twitter at One Nation Doty. Don't forget to check out his Facebook page for all his Saints and LSU merchandise. Can't get any better than Sarah Klein Stevens, attorney at law. Her firm focuses on the needs of the elderly and maintaining their dignity throughout the process. Here for you, here for your family. Sarah Klein Stevens, attorney at law.
All right, we're back, and Reagan's having a little bit of some technical difficulties right now. We'll hope he can be able to jump back in. As y'all know, his computer has been crashing randomly the last few shows, and it looks like it has done that. So he'll join back with us here shortly on his phone. But before we do that, before we get Reagan back in here, oh look, already back in here. He's already in here, already back with us. What's up?
Yeah, so
They did it again.
Yeah, so look, I told myself we'll give it one more chance. We'll give it one more run. We'll see how it goes. And if not, we're going to retire it from the stream. So RIP my MacBook. It will no longer be a part of our stream after tonight.
Your phone camera's pretty good there, though. You know, you just got a massive green background.
Well,
So,
I mean, I don't have the fancy brick with the TA logo, and
yeah, it's all good. It's all good. RP said, did y'all watch the ending of the Atlanta Braves and Philadelphia game? No, I was here. I don't know, Reagan, maybe you had it going on the side or something like that. I did not. I saw it was pretty crazy ending. To be honest, RP, I love LSU baseball. Not a big MLB guy. I keep up with the St. Louis Cardinals about this much. So yeah. I didn't see the ending of it, but apparently
I didn't see
wild.
it. I didn't see it, but I know it was like 4-5, ninth inning. Phillies had a guy on base, down one, and I think Atlanta pulled it off. But I wasn't watching it.
Something wild. Anyways, we'll move on. Dane Bergeron is with us. Appreciate you, Dane. He said LSU needs to do some firing on both players and coaches. Dane, I'll hold off on that for now. I think the players issue, I think, is massively due to the fact that Ed Orgeron left you in such a mess. I mean, literally when he left the program, you were down to one scholarship defensive back. And so I think a large part of the player issue is because of the way the program was left whenever Ed Orgeron's tenure ended. And BK has been having to try to catch up because of that by replenishing his defensive back room with DBs that he can get right out of the transfer portal. And the transfer portal, it's going to be a hit or a miss. I mean, sometimes, you get a guy and it's like Jayden Daniels and they're phenomenal and they're great for you. It's a guy that needs to a change of scenery, needs some better coaching, and they make that change and they're phenomenal, like Jayden Daniels. Or it's a guy like Zy Alexander, who's a veteran, who's trying to take a step up and maybe try to play his way into the NFL. And LSU really needs him at defensive back. And so you go and get him, right? Or it's a guy like Denver Harris, who had some issues off the field, had the 5-star talent, but really didn't have a whole lot of production at A&M. And so now you're kind of seeing, okay, was it really just because he was a knucklehead at A&M, or is it also because there's maybe a little bit of lack of talent from transitioning from that 5-star out of high school? It's just a hit or miss. And so I'll hold off on that a little bit, because Matt House is also having to deal with that, right? He's also having to deal with these guys. And I'm not trying to be that one that's like just constantly giving excuses, but I will say this, Dane, if it continues, right, and we saw some adjustment here in this past game versus Missouri, if this issue continues and you don't see a whole lot of progression, I agree with you. There needs to be a change on the coaching staff. And so we'll see. Reagan, I think you wanted to add something to that.
Yeah, and you also, I mean, what if J.K. Johnson doesn't break his leg? I mean, maybe he's maybe J.K. Johnson comes in from Ohio State and he's your best DB on the team. Like, you just don't know.
You don't know.
Because he came from the portal and broke his leg. I mean, how do you what do you do with that? And we don't even know what's going on with Deuce Chestnut. Like, we have no idea. So, I mean, that's the way it goes with the portal. That's why you build your team, your recruiting classes. And Dane, like, the DBs, like, the help is coming. Like, we got some guys in this past class with Javian Taviano. Ryan Yates has been playing. And by the way, Ryan Yates has been playing great as a true freshman.
Really good.
And he will continue to grow and get even better. Ashton Stamps and LT, I think, are both guys that can contribute next year significantly. You got a guy like Kai Bates and Deshaun McBride, who are literally the top 2 recruits in your class for the 2024 class, who are both DBs. So, like, help is coming. Help is coming. You've just got to build it from the recruiting class and not, shoot from the transfer portal every single year. Just the reality of the situation.
Yeah. Ryan said, I think 4-down linemen will get pressure on the quarterback and help the DBs in coverage. We saw a little bit of that, yes, against Missouri. I think that continues. Goose Sports has joined us. Appreciate you, Goose, for joining us. He says, yo, what's up? Goose also said, Greg Brooks being out hurts, and obviously we continue to pray for him. Reagan, he was moved to St. Jude here in Memphis as of today.
Really?
So he is in Memphis right now, taking treatments. Obviously, we wish him the best and prayers for him and his family as they go through that. Hope for a speedy recovery and especially just peace and prayers for the family as they go through that. Jason Baker, I wanted to do this question, answer this comment last as we can get into the second segment. He said, I have a friend that is still talking about Jayden, bad. I'm guessing bad about Jayden. I want to unfriend him. Yeah, as me and Reagan mentioned, like, if you're still talking bad about Jayden Daniels, then
you're ignorant.
You're ignorant. You really don't know a whole lot of football if you don't know. So, Reagan, let's get into this, okay? And we've done this before on AYS. I don't think we've done it on here before. I'm going to give you a blind resume. Okay. QBA has 2,391 total yards. He has 1,969 69 passing yards, 19 passing touchdowns, 442 rushing yards, 4 rushing touchdowns, and the strength of schedule that he has played is ranked 3rd. QBB has 1,946 total yards. He has 1,822 passing yards, 22 passing touchdowns, 124 rushing yards, 6 rushing touchdowns, and his strength of schedule that he has played is 68th. They both each have 2 interceptions. Who's QBA and who's QBB, if it's not obvious already?
Jayden Daniels, QBA. I mean,
yes.
He's QBA.
So who's QBB?
Caleb Williams.
And that's correct.
Pac-12. I'm just kidding. Pac-12's
look, Reagan, I understand he is the defending Heisman, trophy winner. And do you get a little bit of a
media help? Yes.
Media help because of that? Do you get a little bit of a pat on the back because you were the Heisman a year ago? Yeah, sure. But stats are stats, and I want to say this. I've seen a lot of I've seen a lot of people on Twitter and social media coming on and saying, "Oh well, Caleb Williams is 6-0. His team is 6-0, and Jayden Daniels' team is 4-2." Hey, I just listed you the strength of schedule. LSU 3rd strength of schedule. USC 6th strength of schedule. By the way, USC had to go to triple overtime to beat a bad Arizona team. And I don't want to hear about defense. Guess what? LSU has a considerably worse defense, in my opinion, than USC. Okay, so I don't want to hear it's oh well, they both have bad defense. LSU has a worse defense. Okay, statistically speaking, they have a worse defense. You have played a worse schedule. And the stats don't lie. The stats don't lie. Okay.
And also
the reason you're 6-0 is because you haven't played a Florida State. The reason you're 6-0 is because you haven't played a Missouri. The reason you're 6-0 is because you haven't played an Ole Miss. Like, guess what? The gauntlet comes now. I don't know if you've seen it, Reagan, but the next 5 out of 6 games for USC, all ranked teams and all really good. We're talking Utah, Oregon, Washington. Like,
they're gonna lose. They're gonna lose.
You're gonna lose. You're probably gonna lose a couple of games. Now, I mean, maybe they're they turn it around and their defense plays great and Caleb Williams plays out of his mind and you win out. That's possible. Okay, I'm just saying I do not foresee USC winning out. I do not see it.
They didn't last year and he won the Heisman. They lost to Tulane.
They lost to Tulane. Like, what was the record last year? Like 10-3, something like that.
Yes. So that's my point, is like the wins. Well, he don't have the wins. Like, when has that ever been a problem? Johnny Manziel won the Heisman and he lost several, like 2 or 3 games the year he won the Heisman. Lamar Jackson, when he won the Heisman, not even close to a national championship. Like, that's bogus.
It's a stupid argument.
That's bogus to me. And if look, I will say this, Zach. I think the media is finally saying, okay, we can't ignore Jayden Daniels anymore. Like, after this week, I noticed several people were like,
he's top 3. He's in the top 3.
We have to put him in the conversation because you cannot deny the stats. I mean, you just simply cannot deny what he's been doing. And Zach, if you want to get real about it, Jayden had 4 touchdowns this past Saturday and should have had 6. He had 2 taken off the board. He had 1 taken.
Reagan, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Can you hear me? I'm here.
You're cutting in and out.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
You're cutting in and out real bad.
I don't know. It looks like
I can barely hear you, but you're cutting in and out real bad.
I can hear you perfectly.
May want to try to.
I think it's your end, Zach. I think
it might be my end. Keep going.
I hear you perfectly. So
okay,
he had one taken off. He had a touchdown taken off the board because of the Kamorian Pimpton holding, which I mean the holding call was really nitpicky by the referees, in my opinion. Like, I could see it either way, but I felt like it was a little nitpicky. Number one. Number two, early in the game, Jayden Daniels, they did the little tush push that Philadelphia's been doing. They've done it the last, I think, 2 games. LSU's done that. He was clearly in the end zone, and they didn't call it a touchdown. They didn't review it, and ultimately Logan Diggs scored the touchdown on that drive because they didn't give the touchdown to Jayden and they didn't review it. And then, of course, the touchdown is taken off the board from the Kamorian Pimpton holding call, and also when the same play they called the holding on Kamorian Pimpton is the same play he took the cheap shot in the end zone. So Jayden Daniels had 2 touchdowns stolen from him. On Saturday. Like, the dude should have had 3 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns. Like, he straight up had 2 touchdowns taken away from him.
We didn't mention how bad the officiating was this past Saturday.
God awful.
It was awful.
Just atrocious.
They called, I think it was 22 or more flags. Like, it was like every other play there was a flag.
I have seen the disconcerting signal call. Like, I've seen that a few times. Never in my life have I ever seen it called 4 times in one game. Never in my life. Okay, that's number one. Number two, you have 2 line judges. Your sole job as a line judge before the ball is snapped is to make sure nobody jumps off sides or jumps on a false start. That is your sole job.
Yeah.
How do you blatantly miss the dude jumping from Missouri on the touchdown play there at the goal line? That would have backed them up 5 yards and made it, like first and goal from the 6 instead of like first and goal from the 1. Missed that. They called the Comorian Pimpton a hold. They didn't penalize the guy for hitting Jayden late. I'm almost, Zach, I don't know about you, but I think the field goal for Damian Ramos went through. And they didn't review that either. They didn't review the touchdown that Jayden clear. Now I'm okay with the Damian Ramos one. I know that one, it might have gone out, but at first glance I thought it went through. But Jayden Daniels early in the game when Logan Diggs ended up for his touchdown, like I was literally sitting there going, "It's a touchdown," and like it's not even close. Half his body is laying in the end zone, and they didn't even review it. They didn't even review it. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Oh, it was horrible. I mean, the officiating was just atrocious, just horrible. I mean, all you can do is submit things, like submit complaints, and like that's all they can do. I hate that.
Yeah,
referees have to be held more accountable, and I think they should be questioned after every game, just like coaches are. Every game.
I'll say on the kick on the Damian Ramos field goal. So if you looked at the shot where you're looking up at the goal post, it does go just like right over the top. I would even say a little bit to the outside of the post.
Gotcha.
And the rule is you have to think of the post as in never ending. Like they just keep going.
Right.
They just keep going.
Yeah.
So if it goes over the post, it's no good. It has to be in between the post. So inside, the very inside of the two posts. So I will say I did think it was a missed field goal based on the second camera angle. And so, but you should have never gotten to a field goal. That's the issue. You should have never gotten to that field goal because that was also the drive where Jayden Daniels punched it in after the bobbled snap. They called a very tick-tacky holding call on Comorian Pimpton. Jayden Daniels was absolutely destroyed after he had already well entered the end zone. He was absolutely – it was rough. It was roughing for sure, or late hit, whatever you want to call it. And they did nothing. They did nothing. Instead, they called a tick-tacky holding call. And as you mentioned, the false start – I mean, if we're going to complain about the refs, you took away 7. You took away 7. You for sure took away 7 from LSU on that drive, right? Because Jayden Daniels had scored. You should have called a late hit. At the very least, it was offsetting, right?
Yeah.
And then on the false start, we don't know what would have happened ultimately, but that would have backed them up 5 yards. And I'm not saying that they would have scored 7, but we don't know, right?
Sure.
We do know that LSU would have scored on the touchdown that they called the holding call on. So it was, as you said, just a horribly officiated game on both sides of the ball, honestly. Nobody wants to see a game where there's 22 flags called and the referees are absolutely stealing the show. And they stole the show in a bad way, right? Yeah. And so it was just disappointing. I've not complained about any other refereeing outside of this game versus Missouri. Like Florida State, all the other games before Missouri, like haven't complained. I mean, there's been bad calls and missed calls, stuff like that, but like the officiating wasn't bad. This game, it was bad. So anyways, Reagan, we were discussing Jayden Daniels and the Heisman. Reagan, I fully believe if Jayden Daniels continues down this path that he's on and he's averaging, 400 yards a game, both through the air and on it with his feet. There is no doubt in my mind that he should be in New York for the Heisman announcement. I mean, he should, which now is it the top 3? I know it used to be top 5. Is it just top 3 now?
It might be top 3 now.
I can't remember. I want to say it's top 3 now. Maybe our viewers in the comments can help us out.
I think it's different every year. I think it depends on how close the race is.
Okay. That may be the case now. Like, I don't care either way. if Jayden Daniels continues to put up over 400 plus yards a game, he deserves to be
game.
Yeah, he deserves to be in the Heisman voting there at the end in New York. So, for anybody to say otherwise, again, you're ignorant and you don't know football. Jayden Daniels, he is statistically the best quarterback in the SEC, and he is statistically
top 3.
I think top 3 in the nation. So he's outdueling the quote unquote Heisman front runner right now.
Now,
so
I will say this: so like as of right now, how it stands, he literally leads the entire country in total offense.
Yes.
Period. But Michael Penix has played one last game, so I will say that. But as of right now, he leads the entire country in total offense.
Yeah, and I will say, like, if it's not going to be Jayden, it deserves to be Michael Penix. Honestly.
Yeah.
I see some people, talking about Brock Bowers, and I'm not saying Brock Bowers is not phenomenal. Brock Bowers is phenomenal. And Brock Bowers is a first-round talent. I don't think he deserves near as much talk as Michael Penix and Jayden Daniels does. I'd even say Caleb Williams deserves way much more talk than Brock Bowers. So really, it needs to be Caleb Williams, Michael Penix, Jayden Daniels in no particular order. For me, I'm biased. It needs to be Jayden Daniels, Michael Penix, Caleb Williams. We'll see how the rest of the season goes. He's got to play another half of the season. But you've gotten through some tough defenses, right? You got past Missouri, who was a really good defense. You got past Florida State, really good defense. You got to get past Auburn, who's a really good defense. You got to get past Alabama, really good defense. You got to get past A&M, really good defense. It's a little bit different, right? Like you've played some really good offensive teams here in this first 6 weeks, but you're about to play some really good defensive teams. So we're about to really see how well Jayden can play when he faces these better defensive teams like Alabama, Auburn, A&M. So Reagan, either way, I'm really excited and just really happy for Jayden Daniels in the season that he's having. It's so awesome, that he made the decision to come back and we get to experience this, right? Like you don't get to experience this. You look back at the 2022 season and go, hey, Jayden was a pretty good quarterback. Like he's pretty good. Now you're looking at it going, Jayden was an elite quarterback. And I will go as far to say, look, I know you've had Jamarcus Russell. I know you've had Rohan Davey. I know Zach Mettenberger had a pretty good 2 years. I will go as far to say Jayden Daniels is the second best quarterback in LSU history. Statistically, I think he's gonna go down as the second best quarterback in LSU history, not overall career, but as far as a combined 2 years, and the impact that he had and how much he meant to his team. I think there's only one other one that's going to be above him, and we all know who that is, in Joe Burrow. So, anyways, fully believe that Jayden Daniels needs to be atop the Heisman conversation. Seems like after this week, he is now with not only LSU media and LSU fans, but the national media as well. I hope that continues.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm with you there. Like, even Rohan Davey and Jamarcus Russell, their biggest impacts were their 2 final years.
Yeah.
Like, especially with like Jamarcus Russell 05, 06, like that was those 2 years were like the years for them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like been typical of quarterbacks is they have 2 years where like they're the guy. At LSU at least. So if we're talking 2 years, like it's definitely Joe Burrow and Jayden Daniels, for sure. And Jayden Daniels is on pace to be second best. I mean, I feel like that sounds horrible, but when you literally have the greatest season of all time in 2019 at LSU, it's kind of hard to top that. But with Jayden Daniels in this,
I don't know about you, but if somebody was saying, "Hey, this guy is the best quarterback outside of Joe Burrow," I'd be like, "Hey, I'm okay with that. Like, I'm good with it."
Yeah, he is. I think he is, and he's very much so on track to have the second best season at LSU ever as a quarterback. Like he's well on his way It's not even going to be close. So, shoot, like I legitimately think as of right now where he stands, he's got 19 passing touchdowns. He's got 4 rushing. He's got 23 touchdowns. I was thinking like he could end up with like 4,000 passing yards, 1,000 yards rushing,
40 touchdowns,
and like 40 touchdowns. Like that's unreal. Like that is unreal. Like no question he should be in the Heisman conversation. There's no question. I think he will be in New York. Come that time, I think he will be. Does he ultimately win it? I don't know. We'll have to see how it plays out. But if he keeps playing like this, he is going to have a bid at it. Like he will very much be in the mix. So it's very exciting. It's very exciting because we only have 2. We only have 2 of them in Billy Cannon and Joe Burrow. So to get another one would be, like another feather in your cap to say, hey, it's fun to play quarterback at LSU.
Yeah. I think if he puts up 400 plus yards against Auburn, if he puts up 400 plus yards against Army, and then let's say you go to Tuscaloosa and you win the game and he puts up 400 plus yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown.
No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah.
If he put this LSU team with this defense in the SEC championship, no doubt.
Reagan, we got to move on and get to a couple of things to wrap up here.
For sure.
So LSU basketball gets a commit out of Curtis Givens III.
Yes, sir.
4-star point guard, I believe. So big get for Matt McMahon. McMahon's making moves. I'm excited to see, how the team looks this year. Obviously, we're getting closer and closer. I mean, November will be here before we know it. Also, the baseball team is going to have some inter-squad games coming up this weekend, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I'll be interested to see kind of the things that come out of those inter-squad games. We've seen already a little bit of some of their practices and stuff and players that we're hearing from. So it's been exciting. Reagan, do you have anything on those 2 things?
Yeah. They had their first inter-squad, series this past weekend.
Yeah.
Never would I have ever guessed that Michael Braswell would have been the first name to see get a home run.
Yeah, that was kind of.
But look, hey,
wow.
Look, Jay brought him, and when he was talking, he had his big press conference, before when the school year was starting, when baseball players were showing up on campus, and he has the big day where he kind of like covers the new roster. And he was going through his transfers, and he obviously mentioned Michael Braswell because he's one of the transfers, and said specifically in Michael, yes, he has not had the stats the last 2 years like that you would want out of an SEC shortstop at the plate. But number one, he's a great defensive player. He showed that at South Carolina. But number 2, he said, I think there's some things we can tap into with his swing to get it a lot better and make him way more productive at the plate than he has been. And if there's anybody that I trust to do that, I think it's Jay Johnson. And he's the first one to get a home run, in fall.
Cool.
So pretty awesome.
All right, Reagan, it's been a fun show. Aside from my crappy internet and your crappy computer, maybe we'll have a show where we can get past the hour without my internet being crappy and your computer being crappy. We'll see how it goes this Friday. Reagan, I got to let you do the outro because that's your thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And look, I'm going to figure something out. I'm not going to use the computer. I'll tell you that much, but we'll get through it. We will get through it, Zach. We'll figure it out. It's growing pains right now. I mean, we're just going through it right now, but it is what it is. We still have our content. We're talking LSU. It's all working out. Guys are still commenting, and we appreciate all you guys. Ryan, RP, Jason Baker was in here.
James Bogan.
Tyler Townsend. Appreciate you guys. Y'all are always fantastic. And
Goose Sports, Stain Bergeron, all those guys.
Yeah, Goose Sports as well.
Lucy.
All your interaction as always. We'll be here this Friday to not recap, but preview the Auburn game. Looking forward to it. And we'll see you then here in the Tigers Avenue. 5-Star Hero takes us out. Peace.